Bullies. When I went to my first boarding school at the age of 8, I was very small and pretty weak and didn't know the rules of British upper middle class boarding life. And so it was very likely that I would be bullied by other boys, older boys. Bullying is very widespread, particularly in boarding institutions. But somehow, certainly from my memories and the extensive papers I have and my autobiography, I don't really remember being bullied, either there or at my next school, where there was also bullying, the public school. And I've always put this down to the fact that, although small and weak, bullies sensed that I was very determined and very obstinate, and even though they would obviously defeat me, being larger and older, I would cause some damage to them, and I wasn't afraid of them. I think this is the most important thing. It's been well documented, of course, that animals sense fear, and humans as animals sense fear. So if you are in the presence of a mildly dangerous animal, then if you even have any real fear, it will sense it and it's more likely to attack. And I think I just assumed from my background I hadn't ever been bullied really, and so I didn't emanate any fear, and the bullies bullied other people. But from that experience and from observing bullying over the years, the 10 years at boarding schools and in minor forms in later life, I've come to learn certain things about bullies. Some of them about their nature and some about what to do to evade them. In terms of their nature, though these are generalizations, one could say the first thing about bullies is that they are also cowards, that they will maximize their aggression, but if they are seriously threatened by someone else, they will retreat very fast. So bullies are cowardly. They are also transactional. That is, a big bully in a playground will bully or chivvy or put pressure on other children to join them in their gang or do whatever they want. But it's a short-term display of force and pressure, and the relationship is not based on trust and friendship and long-term commitment. So they're very transactional people. They're obviously aggressive. They get much of their pleasure from the bullying act itself. And because they are bullies, they assume everyone else in a playground would be bullies like them if they could. So if any other child in the playground shows some sign of standing up for themselves or becoming equally powerful in their own way, they assume that those other children will behave to them as they behaved themselves in an aggressive and bullying way. They're also insecure. Part of the bullying may have been caused, in fact, by the fact that they were bullied themselves earlier by other people, and they feel a sense of inner uncertainty and insecurity. They're often greedy. They want to take away things from other children, not merely because they enjoy the sweets or toys that they grab, but as a show of dominance and power and aggression. And they're also arrogant. They think that their position is caused not by the fact that they happen to be bigger and stronger, but they are somehow morally and in some other ways superior and have the right to dominate and bully others. So those are some of the features, and I learnt from my experience that the best way to deal with bullies was not to, if you had to, you stood up to them, but if not, ignore them. They want to be the centre of attention, and if you walk away and get on with your lives with your friends, they may try and intrude and break it up, but there's not much point in actually going up and getting into a wrestling match with them. Ignore them and move on with your lives, and they may then reluctantly decide that perhaps they want to join in your game, and that's fine. What I also noticed over my time in school was that the threat of these bullies decreased, because often at the age of 8 or 9 there were these big boys who had, for one reason or other, developed physically faster and were a year or two older. But as the other boys grew, then the power structure leveled out, and one single dominant bully couldn't bully all the other middle-sized boys. So the situation changed into as you might say, a multinational situation. So those are just a few of the things I've learned about bullies. When thinking about the current world situation, I often find the analogy of that playground activity and bullying useful. I won't personally comment on a number of people who might think that my description of a playground bully fits very well with a certain very large country in the world, and particularly with its leader, nor that another phenomenon of bullying, which is that the bully usually has some sidekick. He has some smaller, equally aggressive, equally pugnacious, equally transactional smaller boy who on their own wouldn't be any kind of threat, but they act on behalf of and support the bully in their activities. And some people might suggest that that fits pretty well with Israel or the Zionists in Israel. I wouldn't, of course, comment on that, but I find it a useful and interesting metaphor. And the last metaphor, which part of it which is useful, is the way in which the playground is changing over time. And certainly in the world now, we find that a situation which was dominated by one power over the last couple of generations, far exceeding the power of all the other nations, is now shifting, and it's a much more level world where other nations are powerful and can stand up and hold any particular nation to some account. So a few reflections on bullies.